Every day, millions of families open their refrigerators, take out yesterday's meal, warm it up, and enjoy it without giving it a second thought. It has become part of everyday life. After all, if the food is hot enough, it must be safe, right? The reality is more complicated. Scientists have spent decades studying how cooking, storing, and reheating food affect its chemical structure. Their findings reveal that some foods change in ways most people never notice. These changes are invisible. You can't see them, smell them, or taste them. Yet under certain conditions, they may influence the nutritional quality of what you eat. Today's video explores 4 everyday foods that deserve extra attention when it comes to reheating. This isn't about creating fear or telling you to throw away every leftover meal. Instead, it's about understanding what modern food science says so you can make informed decisions for yourself and your family. One important point before we begin. Cancer is a complex disease influenced by many factors, including genetics, smoking, alcohol, physical activity, infections, environmental exposure, and overall diet. No single reheated food directly causes cancer on its own. However, researchers continue to investigate how repeated exposure to certain compounds formed during cooking and reheating may contribute to long-term health risks. Understanding these processes allows us to reduce unnecessary exposure while still enjoying a practical and balanced lifestyle. So let's begin with the first food on our list. Food number 1. Cooked rice. Rice is one of the world's most important staple foods. Billions of people rely on it every day, and in many households, leftover rice is simply refrigerated and reheated the next day. Although this habit is incredibly common, food safety experts recommend handling cooked rice carefully. Here's why. Raw rice naturally contains bacterial spores that can survive the initial cooking process. These spores usually aren't dangerous while the rice is hot. The concern begins after cooking. If cooked rice is left sitting at room temperature for several hours before refrigeration, those surviving spores can become active. As they multiply, some strains may produce toxins. These toxins are much more resistant to heat than the bacteria themselves. That means reheating the rice may destroy many of the bacteria, but it may not eliminate toxins that have already formed. This issue is mainly associated with food poisoning rather than cancer, which is why proper storage is far more important than reheating alone. Researchers also study another process involving starchy foods. When foods rich in carbohydrates are exposed to very high temperatures, especially during repeated heating or browning, small amounts of a chemical called acrylamide can form. Scientists continue to investigate this compound because laboratory studies have shown potential health concerns at high exposure levels. While normal dietary intake is very different from laboratory conditions, experts generally recommend avoiding unnecessary overcooking or repeated high-temperature reheating. So what can you do? Fortunately, the solution is simple. After cooking rice, allow it to cool quickly rather than leaving it out for hours. Refrigerate it promptly in shallow containers, eat it within a day if possible, and avoid reheating the same batch multiple times. Small changes like these can significantly improve food safety while preserving the quality of your meal. But rice is only the beginning. The next food is one of the most popular sources of lean protein in the world. It's recommended by doctors, athletes, and nutrition experts alike. Yet repeated exposure to very high heat may create compounds that researchers have been studying for years. We'll explore that next. Food number 2. Cooked chicken. Let's move to one of the most common proteins found in kitchens around the world: chicken. Whether you're meal prepping for the week, packing lunch for work, or saving leftovers after dinner, cooked chicken often ends up back in the refrigerator. The next day, most people simply heat it again without giving it much thought. From a food safety perspective, properly stored chicken can usually be reheated safely. However, the way it's reheated matters more than many people realize. Scientists have discovered that when meat is exposed to very high temperatures, especially repeatedly, its proteins and fats begin to change. One group of compounds that researchers frequently study is called heterocyclic amines, often shortened to HCAs. These compounds are mainly produced when meat is cooked at very high temperatures, such as grilling, frying, or charring. Reheating chicken aggressively at extremely high temperatures may also increase their formation, particularly if the meat becomes overly browned or burnt. Why are researchers interested in these compounds? Laboratory studies suggest that HCAs can damage DNA under certain conditions. While this does not mean eating reheated chicken automatically causes cancer, many long-term studies have found that diets consistently high in heavily charred or overcooked meats may be associated with an increased risk of certain cancers. Another change occurs in the fats naturally present in chicken. As cooked meat sits in the refrigerator, oxygen slowly reacts with these fats through a process called oxidation. When the meat is heated again, especially at high temperatures, this oxidation can continue, producing additional compounds that scientists continue to investigate for their effects on long-term health. The good news is that reducing these compounds is surprisingly simple. Instead of blasting leftover chicken in a very hot pan, warm it gently until it reaches a safe serving temperature. Avoid burning the meat or cooking it until it's dry and dark. If possible, use leftover chicken in cold dishes like salads, sandwiches, or wraps. These small habits help preserve flavor, improve texture, and may reduce unnecessary exposure to heat-related compounds. Now let's continue to a food that surprises many health-conscious people. Food number 3: spinach and other leafy greens. When people think of healthy eating, spinach is usually near the top of the list. It's packed with vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and plant compounds that support overall health. Doctors, nutritionists, and dietitians regularly recommend eating more leafy greens, and for good reason. However, the discussion changes slightly when cooked spinach is stored and later reheated. Leafy vegetables such as spinach, beet greens, celery, and Swiss chard naturally contain substances called nitrates. In fresh vegetables, these nitrates are considered normal and even beneficial because they help support healthy blood circulation. The concern begins after cooking and storage. During refrigeration, naturally occurring bacteria may slowly convert some nitrates into nitrites. If these vegetables are later reheated under certain conditions, researchers believe additional chemical reactions may occur. Inside the stomach, nitrites can combine with other compounds from food to form chemicals known as nitrosamines. Nitrosamines have been widely studied because some types have shown cancer-causing effects in laboratory research and animal studies. It's important to understand that the amount formed depends on many different factors, including storage time, cooking methods, food combinations, and overall dietary habits. This doesn't mean spinach becomes dangerous overnight. Rather, experts generally recommend enjoying cooked leafy vegetables while they're fresh, whenever possible. If leftovers remain, cooling them quickly and consuming them soon afterward is usually considered better than repeatedly reheating them over several days. Many people spend time choosing healthy foods, but overlook how preparation and storage can influence quality. Nutrition isn't only about what you eat. It's also about how food is prepared, stored, and served. As food scientists often explain, protecting nutrients begins long before the first bite. So far, we've looked at rice, chicken, and leafy greens. Each teaches the same lesson. Proper storage and gentle reheating can make a meaningful difference in maintaining both food quality and safety. But the final food on our list surprises almost everyone. It's one of the most nutritious foods available, recommended by doctors around the world. Yet few people know what repeated heating may do to its natural fats and proteins. Food number 4: eggs. The final food on today's list is one that surprises almost everyone: eggs. Eggs are often described as one of nature's most complete foods. They provide high-quality protein, essential vitamins, healthy fats, and nutrients that support brain function, eye health, and muscle repair. For most people, eggs are an excellent part of a balanced diet. So why are we discussing them today? The answer isn't that eggs are unhealthy. The concern lies in what may happen when cooked eggs are repeatedly exposed to high heat. When eggs are first cooked, natural changes occur in their proteins and fats. These changes are completely normal. However, if cooked eggs are refrigerated and then reheated at very high temperatures, especially in a microwave or hot frying pan, additional chemical reactions may occur. Researchers have found that cholesterol and fats inside egg yolks can slowly oxidize when exposed to repeated heating. This process creates substances known as oxidized cholesterol compounds, sometimes called oxysterols. Scientists continue to study these compounds because laboratory research suggests they may contribute to inflammation and oxidative stress when consumed in large amounts over long periods. It's important to keep these findings in perspective. Current evidence does not show that reheating eggs occasionally will directly cause cancer. Instead, researchers are examining whether long-term dietary exposure to oxidized fats from repeatedly overheated foods could become one piece of a much larger health puzzle. Another issue involves the egg's proteins. Repeated heating can make proteins tougher and less digestible. Anyone who's reheated scrambled eggs has probably noticed they become rubbery and dry. That's because their protein structure continues changing with additional heat. Although this mainly affects texture and taste, food scientists generally recommend avoiding repeated high-temperature reheating whenever possible. The simplest solution? Cook only the number of eggs you expect to eat. If you prepare hard-boiled eggs ahead of time, store them properly in the refrigerator, and enjoy them cold if possible. When warming egg dishes, use gentle heat rather than cooking them again. This helps preserve both flavor and nutritional quality. The bigger picture. After looking at these 4 foods, one important message becomes clear. The goal isn't to fear leftovers. Leftovers can reduce food waste, save money, and make healthy eating more convenient. The real lesson is that how food is stored and reheated matters just as much as what food you choose. Scientists have identified several chemical processes that may occur during storage and repeated heating. These include fat oxidation, protein oxidation, formation of certain heat-related compounds, changes caused by bacteria when food is stored improperly. None of these automatically mean a meal becomes dangerous. Instead, they remind us that good food handling practices are an important part of overall health. Small daily habits often have a greater impact than dramatic lifestyle changes. Simple habits that make a difference. Here are a few practical habits supported by general food safety guidance. First, refrigerate cooked food promptly instead of leaving it at room temperature for several hours. Second, divide large meals into smaller containers so they cool more quickly. Third, avoid reheating the same food multiple times. Instead, warm only the portion you plan to eat. Fourth, use moderate heat whenever possible. Food doesn't need to be burned or overcooked to become safe. Fifth, pay attention to storage time. Even refrigerated leftovers have a limited shelf life. When in doubt, it's always safer to discard questionable food than risk eating it. These habits are simple, inexpensive, and easy to apply in everyday life. Final thoughts. Nutrition is about much more than calories, protein, or vitamins. It's also about food quality, preparation methods, storage conditions, and cooking techniques. Modern research continues to expand our understanding of how these factors influence long-term health. While no single food determines your future, your everyday habits can add up over time. Making informed choices doesn't require perfection. It simply means understanding the science and applying practical common sense whenever possible. Freshly prepared meals, proper refrigeration, careful reheating, and a balanced diet remain some of the best strategies for supporting long-term health. So the next time you open your refrigerator and reach for yesterday's leftovers, take a moment to think not only about what you're eating, but how you're preparing it. Sometimes, the smallest changes in the kitchen can become meaningful investments in your future well-being. If you found this information helpful, consider sharing it with friends or family. A simple conversation about safe food habits could help someone make better choices every single day. Thank you for watching. Stay informed, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next video.